program says I'm going to talk about ceremonies in the 5%, but I thought I'd turn it around and actually talk about what the other 95% is today. So we're going to talk about the 95%. A little bit about me. I'm an Agile coach. I've been a coach for almost 15 years now. It's almost as long as the manifesto's been around. I run a podcast with a few other coaches, so if you actually want to regularly listen to me and some of my friends, then you're welcome to do that. We also do interviews with experts across the world. I have a company called DNA, and because you love Twitter, you can link me in or Twitter me in on Agile Renee, and I have a blog post called Agile Forest. Okay, so I'm going to start off with 2 warnings. My first warning is pretty much everything that I'm going to cover today I sort of consider is common sense. You know, unfortunately, common sense isn't that very common, so I sort of feel it's important to relay some of this narrative anyway. The second thing that I cover is, in my experience as an Agile coach, most of the organisations that I work with are really big, like monumental big. We're talking about 30,000 plus based organisations. And so a lot of these stories and these narratives are to do with those based size of implementation. A lot of the patterns that I'm going to be talking today are relevant to where you've got teams of greater than a few hundred people. But if you're smaller, you can sort of dumb down some of these approaches as well. Alright. So, in my first Agile project ever, it was a very interesting experience. It was a bank, and at the time there was not a lot of Agile around in the world. In fact, the impetus to go down the Agile path was more of a curiosity than anything else at that point in time. The time to deliver was quite long, quite significant. This was a web-based delivery platform at that point in time. And I wanted to investigate, what is this Agile thing? What could it do for us? And so we did this. We implemented Scrum, NXP at the time, and we did workshops at the front before kicking off work, and we delivered in iterations or sprints. Now at the time, I don't know whether anyone knows, but at the time Scrum was 4 weekly iterations, and we sort of tested what worked and what didn't work, tried to go down to 2 weeks, we even went as far as 1 week, tried daily Scrums, sort of ended up landing on around about 2 weeks. And this is the result that we got. We got dramatic improvements of speed to market, on the changes that we were after, on the quality that we were after. And this is the typical response. Now, this response wasn't just what I had. I see this time and time again when Agile implementations occur. It's a response that managers make of, oh, this is awesome! We need to do this everywhere in our IT shop. But we've acknowledged that you broke some of the rules, because you were sort of just piloting this Agile thing, we're just trying it out. So we sort of need you to change a little bit about how you're going to work, just to fit in with the rest of the organisation. It's that fit-in mentality. So we want you to change governance. We've got a risk and issue process. It's very important that you follow it. We've got reporting requirements, monthly reporting. Things are going red, you need to do weekly reporting. We've got change management activities, so if dollars change, we need you to fill in some particular paperwork associated with it. We've got specific ways in which we give funding. We've got specific ways in which we give you funding. We've got a release process. It's really important that you follow along with that as well. Oh, and whenever you want new work, you've got to do this business case thing. You redraw that money down. And because we've got all these different audit requirements, it's really important that you actually add all this stuff into your definition of done. So you've got to add in, your compliance standards, your usability testing, your accessibility testing, performance and stress testing. You've got to actually do all your requirements in this particular tool. If you're going to do some business modeling, you need to go into this tool as well. Is this familiar to anybody? Yeah. And then lastly, like I was at in the organisation, because it's we've got branches, call centres, we've got to align with how we do change into those areas as well. This is what happens. This is the PAC-MAN effect, where pretty much all your benefits of doing Agile are being eaten up by all these extra processes. I found it funny that Even just before, if you were lucky enough to hear the talk, talked about we've got process nailed. Do we have process nailed? We don't have process nailed. So, almost always, the implementations that I've seen, that I've worked and experienced in, that have been successful, have always only been successful if you try and tackle that process re-engineering of everything else at the same time as trying to roll Scrum or whatever process out inside of your organisation. An agile transformation shouldn't be about doing agile ceremonies. It should be about fixing everything else. Really what it's about in my mind is improving this thing called impediments. So impediments to me are these things that are systemic wastes that we have in the organisation. Things that aren't just blocking teams, but things that are slowing teams down from delivering value end to end. So if you're familiar with Demi, he's got this quote, 95% of the organisation is attributable to the system, to the processes, to the technology, to the way in which we design the work, to the policies that exist around it, and only 5% is attributable to the person. And because my talk was on ceremonies and the 95%, sort of turn this around. 95% of agile success is attributable to a full ecosystem improvement. And 5% is attributable to agile ceremonies. Alright, so we're going to do a little bit of an activity here. I've got a list of possible impediments up here. These are the sorts of impediments that are common in teams. They could have been raised in an issue log. They could have been raised through retrospectives, and they could have been raised and made visible through metrics. So what I want you to do is take a few minutes, talk to a friend that's near you, or meet someone new who's near you. And I want you to think about these things here and wonder which one of these are not impediments. So this is a test to find the one that is not an impediment. So take a few minutes to do that.
Which one is it?
Not an impediment here. Shane.
Velocity.
Velocity. Yeah, this one just up here, velocity. It's at 20 for one, with a team and 40 for another. So interestingly, this is a common one that managers actually think is an impediment. This team's slower than all those teams over there. What's going on? Now, I'd say by the textbook, it's not an impediment, though it is a curiosity to me. So I do generally encourage things like baseline story pointing across the board so that you actually have a level of consistency. It's not that it's 100%, so it's questionable what's happening there. It could be, for example, that they've been 60 points every single sprint or iteration and then they drop to 20. That could be something that's worth investigating as well. Thank you. Anyone else?
The design lead on lead for a month.
Yeah.
Necessarily need to be.
Yeah.
If we've got a cross-functional team and we've got a shared understanding of what we need to deliver, we don't want someone like sensitivity. So
Yep.
not
Exactly.
necessarily would be anything.
Exactly. So the interesting thing is it came up in a retrospective, which suggests that maybe there's something around if the design leads away, something slows down inside of the system. So you're absolutely correct. People should be cross-functional. It's highlighting that there could be a risk in that capability side of that team or across a set of teams. So pretty much all of these, I could go through one by one and I could say, well, it depends. Depends on this condition, and depends on this condition and so forth. But the insight here isn't whether it is an impediment or not. The insight here in this moment is that you should look at it as an it depends always and investigate it a little bit further. Alright, so another little bit of an activity. I'm going to ask you if any of these seem familiar. If they're familiar to you, I want you to put your hand up and keep your arm up, okay? Does management get visibility of all the issues in your organisation? Sorry, I'll do it right the wrong way. So, my apologies, thank you. So, if management doesn't get visibility of all the issues in your organisation, put your hand up. That's a bit better. Yeah. If keep your hand up for you guys. If authority levels are unclear on decision making, put your hand up. Keep your hand up. All right. When issues are raised to management, the person who raised it gets little visibility of what's happened with it or where it's at. Does that happen in your organisation? Put your hand up. When issues are raised, the time for resolving them is inordinately long. You see more hands going up again. Yep. Factors that are slowing the teams down, maybe not blocking them, doesn't get raised in your organisation. Oh, more? Interesting. And teams tend to only focus on things that are inside of their control, predominantly because of all the reasons up above. So, if you put your hand up, you've got an issue with impediments management inside of your organisation. Let's take a moment and think about the root cause about why we've got these issues in organisations. You see a lot of these symptoms, those symptoms that I talked about, such as high cycle times, lack of transparency, those are just symptoms. What's the root cause for a lot of the impediments that we have in the organisation? To me, I sort of think about the root cause as a safety issue at the end of the day. So I do work at many banks. When I work at a bank, almost always something goes wrong. When something goes wrong, what happens? Someone gets shot. And then, really what happens after that is new process gets added, right? Always new process gets added. And in my mind, this additive process is the thing that often kills a successful agile transformation. Yeah, we've got this great Scrum thing. We're going to do Scrum and this, and this, and this, and this. And we keep adding hands into it until it's back to that bloated, overweight system again. So the real root cause here today is to think about this safe to fail culture and trying to address that. Because I'm a very practical person, I want to give you some actual tips and tricks about what you could do. So I'm going to do a couple of steps. Step 1. In order to improve on impediments and impediments management, have a mechanism to make these wastes visible. So by a mechanism, I'm not going to be very prescriptive. You can choose your own pathway to do this. But in essence, what you could do is you could make them visible on a visual management board. You have a mechanism to have retrospectives to identify them, making sure that you put retrospective items onto your visual management board, making sure that you have some visual technique for showing work that is being blocked. So have a mechanism in place to show these impediments, things that are either blocking you or slowing you down in teams. Number 2, again, common sense. Have a pathway to escalate these wastes inside of your organisation. So however many layers you've got in your organisation is probably going to be the number of layers that you'll have as a pathway. Hopefully you can cut it down. So in my current organisation, I worked out there was 7 layers. We managed to cut it down as a pathway to 5 layers, 5 hops to the top. So I would encourage, whatever you have as a mechanism for teams, encourage that same mechanism all throughout the organisation as well. As you go all the way up to your CEO, your C-suite, your board of directors, whatever's top of the list. I want you to identify patterns when things reoccur. So in this example here, test environment's down, test environment's down. Okay, down an awful lot. we obviously aren't fixing this properly. There's something behind this that's going wrong. I'm going to ask a question. How many of you do post-it notes or do some sort of mechanism when things go wrong, like put a blocker up? Yeah, a few of you, yeah. What about retrospective items? Do you put something up for that? Yeah. When you've done them, when you've finished addressing that blocker or that retrospective item, where do you put that particular post-it note?
I put it closely to the team staff. So every time we do the ready stuff, we usually also checking whether there is any push-on based on the
Yep. Great. Anyone else?
Have a done board.
Have a done board. How do you clean up your done board? Don't. Great. So this is awesome, and you're both doing really great techniques, which is keeping these things. I'd say 95% of Agile implementations I see, when something's done, they put it in a bin. They're just losing so much information that's really interesting to the organisation by putting it into a bin. So you want to identify these patterns, and importantly, you want to amplify them in some way. So this is a technique that I've got up here represented, which is called cluster blocking. If you've heard of it, it's a technique that's somewhat new coming out of the Kanban community. And what they recommend is that you aggregate these items that have been completed and finished, not just for the team, but across the team. And interestingly, if you're going to do this at scale to the whole enterprise, you're going to have to cluster block all the way up to the top of the organisation so that you can see these patterns. This is where having a tool might actually be helpful to you, so you can actually start to aggregate some of this data together in some of these data patterns. In step 4, somewhat the last step, fix impediments as a priority, ensuring that you have low work in progress. So you can't fix the world overnight. In fact, if you implement a mechanism for making these things transparent and to escalate them up, I can guarantee you're going to have hundreds of these things. So you actually need to implement a prioritisation mechanism in a way to actually say these are the ones that are important the most. Now, 2 things about this. One, I find it a lot in implementations that it's quite unclear as a management tier what's the responsibility of a manager, what it changes to me as a manager when I do Agile in this brand new world. And I don't think we actually do a good answer to them about what changes. And the thing that I'd actually propose, first and foremost, what changes for a manager, is that your highest priority above everything else is impediment removal. That's your number 1. In fact, I would make that your KPI, and I'd actually assign a cycle time to that and reduce that cycle time down over a few years. That's what you can do to improve your organisation. You can imagine the waste that we will remove from your organisation if you had actually linked that into a manager's success metrics. The other thing I want to talk about is one bank, not mine, inside of Australia has done a really interesting mechanism for doing impediments management. So they decided their approach was, I'll go canvass the whole organisation, you send me everything that you want improved, and then the CEO took that list, that huge list, and on a 9-hour plane flight, prioritised it himself, aggregated it himself, and then the following day went into work, got his leadership team together and said, hey guys, to fix this top one, we've got 2 weeks to fix it. That's the goal. And then 2 weeks later, it was fixed. And he came back and said, right, next one, 2 weeks to fix it. And so that's a way for them, they had a mechanism for raising it, for prioritising it, for addressing it. It didn't have to be complicated, it didn't have to be very agile in any way. But what was important was those 2 week cycles of focusing these items away and removing them. And driven all the way from the top. I've seen it really difficult to implement the system if it's not driven from the top. It tends to stagnate at a certain level. I've had one CEO that said to me, prove to me you've got impediments first before you come back and see me about organising a ceremony for it. Which I said, I can tell you of 30 impediments right now. Would you like me to do it? No, I want to see it on paper. So, have a great sponsor. So step number 5 is really to apply economic decision making. I'm going to go through some economic decision making tips for you today. Number 1, if I have a problem, if I have a waste, and I go out and I apply my solution, generally this is what happens in organisations. Oh, you've got a problem too. I hear about it because we had this meeting where we talked about it. And then he's got a problem too. Oh, and they've got a problem too. And our solution just ends up ballooning out as a result of that. All right, so what I prefer to do rather than this ballooning solution is that if you've got a problem, you just solve to your problem and only your problem. You don't gather and garner everyone else's problems as much as possible. You just solve to the issue that you have. Now, I don't think it should be a solve as in a local optimization. I'm just going to work around this problem. It should be a solve as if I'm doing a proper fix for this problem. It could be used by the enterprise tomorrow, but it's just solving my bit, my problem. And if you've got a problem, then you solve your bit. And if my bits help your bits, then you can use it, that's fine. But you just solve your own problem. If he's got a problem, he just solves his bits. And what you might find over time is that it's their problem, our problem, we can all solve it together when you start to see these patterns where there's value as an enterprise in solving it together. I sort of call it the teddy bear effect. So it occurs really well in Spotify. Spotify, as an example, when they talked about how they were going to manage their code, one team decided that they were going to implement this solution, another team implemented another solution. Over time, they worked out that 65% of the organisation was using a particular tool, and that's when they mandated it. So you can sort of see these patterns happening over time. Don't try and solve the big problem for everybody on the outset. And this is a tip that comes from holacracy. So if you saw Evan's previous presentation where he talked about teal-based organisations, this is one of the core elements associated with holacracy. Address the one tension, and only that attention as it arises. Don't try and fix everyone else's problems. Bandwagoning effect, where you try and jump on everyone else's problems, means nothing ever gets solved quickly. Okay, tip number 2. So when you have an impediment, most people just go, in fact, when they have production issues or big issues that get people fired, almost always process gets added. And at the time in which these issues occur, no one's analysing the cost of analysing the impediment. No one's looking at how long will it take to actually implement a process. They do talk about the cost of dealing with it again. What's that? They don't ever talk about this third element here. If we add in this extra process, step 2, we do it for every single project, year after year, for 5 years, what is the cost to the organisation? And is the cost of all of this outweighing the cost of dealing with that problem again? Because we're never doing that, we're just always adding in process. So we need to actually have an economic decision framework around, is it worth even addressing this impediment? Tip number 3, fix the constraint. So if there's a world of problems out there, which one do you fix first? So in this example here, where we've got a number of steps and work flowing through the steps, where's the constraint here? Step E. The work is only ever going to flow as fast as the key constraint in the system. If we fixed step H or step B, would it make any more work go through the end? No. There's no point doing it. And so what we try and do is we try and fix step E and then find out what the next constraint in the system is. This is theory of constraints. This is such a simple concept, but hardly anyone does this. I guarantee almost everyone in your organisation does what we call local optimization. Fix the bit that you can fix and not look at the bigger picture associated with it. So as an example, the cycle time where I'm currently working is hideously long, from concept to cash. From an idea being generated until we get some feedback and dollars from the customer. The delivery team's cycle time is 6 days. Fantastic, right? 6 days. That's awesome. What do you think the concept of cash cycle time is? 223 days. And what do we keep doing retrospectives on? The team! I mean, what the hell? I don't get it. It's just crazy. And so there's such a huge shift in the mindset of what is happening before it even gets to the team, that it takes 223 days. What's happening after the team have delivered it? We should be looking into that. So tip number 4, know the constraint that you're trading off. I find that almost all impediments are trade-offs of constraints that people just maybe don't know about the root cause of behind the scenes. So if I give you an example, delivery team are not co-located. That's an impediment that I hear often being raised. Well, what's the trade-off? Who has rights to make a decision on that trade-off? So on the one side, well, why are they not co-located? Well, it's because we're out of floor space. Why are we out of floor space? Well, it's because we've got an 8 for 10 policy, or we've got a desktop anywhere sort of situation where we just try and cram as much people onto a floor as possible, right? So ultimately, it comes down to the fact that we've got this policy in place because we're trying to keep our property costs down. That's what it is. And on the other side, well, what would happen if we actually co-located the team? Well, if we co-located the team, assuming they were within 15 metres of each other, if you're familiar with the Thomas Allen curve, it talks about the proximity of team members and the effectiveness of communication associated with those team members. If we're close to each other, then what we can expect through that communication effectiveness is less rework, quicker answers to things, improved quality. And those things relate to higher speed, which ultimately relates to we could potentially get more benefits out to the market. Our benefits equals this number of dollars. In fact, what you could do when it boils down to it is you can actually do an economic trade-off here. What's the value of us releasing more benefits? What's the cost of our property costs? And you could generate a figure for that to say, maybe our policy needs readjustment as a result of that. In a most common sense one, economic decision tip number 5, fix the root cause. Don't fix the symptoms. Find out what the underlying reason is. 5 whys is one technique to do that. Fishbone is another technique to do that. There are many different techniques. So, now that I'm done with my economic decision-making tips, I'm going to give some really practical advice about what you could do. So, when I do impediments, I do them as post-it notes on top of work. The sort of things that I encourage when it's raised, just a title, when it was raised, the date it was raised. You could go through all this and put it on a card. I find that it's an awful lot to put on there. People, generally when I try and implement impediments management, they'll go, oh, we need a template for it. And I go, no, remember that 5%, 95% thing I was talking about? You know, I don't want to add lots of process to fix process. Seems counterintuitive to me. So I don't really encourage a template being used, but I do encourage the thinking to happen associated with root cause analysis, proposed solution, constraints, the frequency of the reoccurrence of this, the number of teams that are impacted by this. And then as it's managed, as it's being worked on, who's the owner? Put their avatar on it. What's the next update date on it? What's the next action associated with it? And importantly, from an action perspective, it shouldn't be the action to fix the impediment as a whole. To be clear, what's the next one thing that can move you towards fixing that impediment? Okay? Don't boil the ocean about everything that you could do to fix it. Just move one step forward every single time you have a meeting around this. So importantly, in order to get this in place, there's some value in understanding cycle time. So there's a team's delivery time, there's the time that it's in the team's pipeline and the time that it takes them to release it and get feedback, which I sort of call an initiative to value cycle time. Then it's got pipeline time before it gets to the team, and then at the team of teams level it could be aggregated back up and then released as a whole. Which is really good value stream cycle time, or your program delivery cycle time. And they've also got things where probably in someone else's head for quite a while, they've been strategically envisioning them for a while, and then we've got some time to realise the benefits associated with it, or just distribute it out to the call centres and so forth. And that's your concept of cash cycle time. So you want to understand your cycle times at all these levels, because only through this can you actually work out where the constraint is. Things such as cumulative flow diagrams from Kanban are incredibly useful for identifying the bottlenecks inside of your system. The other thing about cycle time is that you don't just want to measure the cycle time of impediments as they exist, of the work itself, but you also want to do impediments. So both do cycle time of the work and of impediments themselves, so that you know whether your impediments management system is actually making a difference. It's a very simple thing to do. In reality, just write on the back of the post-it note the date that it came in and the date that it came out. And then, as it goes off the board, record that. And that way, over time, you actually know whether you're getting faster at removing impediments or not. As a rule of thumb, I always say associate it to the work itself. So don't put it on a separate board, ideally stick it on the work itself. Show that the impediment is linked to something that is meant to be providing value. The alternative to this, I sometimes use this as more of a flow management. So where it goes up the chain, away from the teams, a mechanism to see it as it aggregates across the board. So you see work as it goes into the scrum of scrums, up to the steering scrum, and you can continue the pattern all the way up to the executive team. But in essence, work flowing from one area to the next and coming back from an area. Generally, I do things like stand-ups just to do impediments management. And the way in which I run it is you first, overdue next, and if we have time, in progress work. Generally, the in-progress work will be in accordance to the next action date that we put associated with the work. So, speed up your movement. It shouldn't be something that you're doing once a month. This is not a ceremony that's once a month. Where I've implemented it in another bank, this was daily, twice weekly, and the next level up was actually at the same cadence as this. Twice weekly. Can you imagine the senior executives in your organisation meeting twice a week to talk about this stuff? Imagine how quickly things would be resolved if they did this. If you have things like steer codes, then you can start to say, in a very subtle way, yes, you can still have your monthly steer codes, but then we're going to have these steering scrums as well. We're going to have them rather than every month. We're going to have them weekly or bi-weekly. And if it's weekly, then 30 minutes. If it's bi-weekly, then you can go all the way down to 15 minutes. Try and keep it short and sharp. And then reduce your time inside your steering meetings because you're actually dealing with things that are slowing you down and issues. And the last tip I've got is have rigor. So if you are going to have a ceremony around improving impediments, and have a process, ironically, around getting through it quickly. So this is a process that's somewhat similar to how the holacracy system works, the way that they do decision making inside of holacracy. It's very rules based. It's very only this person can talk at this point in time, so that you can get through it quicker. That's the point of those rules. So to reiterate, 4 steps, 5 steps. Have a mechanism to make these wastes visible, have a pathway to escalate them, identify patterns and amplify them, fix impediments as a priority and implement economic decision making. And really the benefits that you get out of this, whilst it was nice to address all those other symptoms that we had, real problems are fixed. Wouldn't that be good? Thank you. Any questions? People want to have lunch. Yep. 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 I'm sure it'll either be sent out, but if you look up Agile Renee on SlideShare, it will be up there in a few days as well. Yep.
Questions. Do you have an experience whether you have in work to implement this, but not in offline clinic? I mean, using post-it, but using the online clinic.
Like a tool? Yep. Yep.
Like a tool.
Yep.
What is the benefit of that, and how's the most difficult things to, let's say, to move the people, because some of people prefer to use the offline, but some of people prefer to use the online. How do you
Yep.
manage it?
I mean, I always prefer physical walls, certainly when it comes to management, because it moves management to the work, which is always a good thing to do, so that they actually do a little bit of together, where they walk around the teams and learn how the teams are working. Certainly, I have implemented inside a tool, so Jira being the one that we've done a lot of work with. It's quite a simple process. It's just a different issue type inside of Jira. You organise a different flow for it. You have different attributes and elements associated with it. But the benefits, I think, of going to a tool system is if you've got a really large organisation, starting to see those patterns occurring across the organisation and having the flexibility to look inside the tool at any point in time based upon where you're going in the organisation to see what's happening. Any other questions? No? Well, thank you.